Are you ready?
Ready?
So from here starts the speaking test. This is the speaking mock test of the International English Language Testing System taking place in Ras IELTS Academy. The candidate is Mehdi Khalaj. The candidate number is 014-13278. The examiner is Joseph. Examiner number 443533. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
My name is Joseph. Would you please tell me your full name?
My full name is Mehdi Khalaj.
And can I see your identification, please?
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. In this first part of the exam, I will ask you some personal questions. First, I'd like to ask you about your hometown. What kind of place is it?
I live in Tehran, which is the capital city of my country. It's it's quite crowded and polluted, of course, but besides, it's a vibrant city.
What's the most interesting part of your town?
In my opinion, the most interesting is in northern part of the city is in the vicinity of beautiful mountains and with breathtaking sceneries.
Would you like to move to another city?
Of course not, at least in this country not. But I love other cities like Isfahan and Shiraz.
Now let's move on to talk about cycling.
Yeah.
Did you learn riding a bicycle when you were a child?
Yes, that was a very fantastic experience. I learned it when I was 5 years old perhaps. And I borrowed a bicycle of my brother and start training with that. Yeah.
What do you think are the benefits of riding a bicycle for a child?
First of all, it helps with amusing the child, and for practicing and exercising, and also biking is quite useful for their health.
Is it safe to ride bicycles on the roads?
For sure not, and perhaps parents would prohibit their children from riding on roads.
Now let's move on to talk about numbers. Do you often use numbers to do something?
Numbers, yes, of course. Sometimes we had to put a number for something to remember, to recall it later.
Are you good at memorizing numbers?
Perhaps not too much, but I try to write it down to remember later after.
Would you like to have a job dealing with numbers?
I'm not an expert in the field of numbers, but it would be fascinating for me and rewarding perhaps to have a job related to numbers.
Well, this is the end of part 1. Now, in part 2, I'm going to give you a topic, and I'd like you to talk about it for 2 minutes. Before you talk, you'll have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say, and you can make notes if you wish. And don't worry if I stop you. Do you understand?
Yes, sure.
Okay, so you can take some paper and pencil to make notes, and here is your topic. Describe something interesting you came across on social media. This is your cue card. This is your pen, and you have 1 minute preparation time to think about what you're going to say. Your 1 minute time starts now. All right, your 1 minute preparation time is over.
Right.
And now you can speak for up to 2 minutes. And don't worry if I stop you. Your 2 minute time starts right now.
I'm going to talk about actually learning English. You may be ask me that what's interesting in that. I mean, on social media, teaching English is something quite vibrant and it's quite common, but it wasn't in the past. So it was for me astonishing that how many instructors are making video clips to teach English to students across the world. So for me, that was, as someone who is quite busy as a bee, and just have enough time to learn English at home. I mean, a variety of websites and platforms like Instagram and YouTube was quite surprising, and I was quite excited to see how many international instructors are trying to fulfill the demands of students all over the world, and perhaps giving them feedbacks to make notes and to improve their ability to talk and to communicate in English language. And I just came across on social media because I didn't have enough time to attend classes. So it was for me quite interesting, and I used social media not just as a hobby, but as an instrument for learning and improving my English.
All right, your 2 minute time is over. Right now we can move on to the third part of the test. We've been talking about something interesting you came across on social media. And I'd now like to ask you some questions related to this.
Right.
Do you think social media apps are most popular these days? Why? Why not?
Yes, of course, social media apps are quite popular, are quite widespread between youngsters, especially highly qualified youngsters. And it wasn't that popular in the past because everything you need could be found via these social media. And it's a tool to communicate, I mean, to express feelings, to share ideas with other people around the country or across the world.
Do you think people spend too much time on these apps? Why and why not?
For me, yes, it's going to be too. It's going to be too involving. I mean, especially youngsters and teenagers, perhaps, are very involved in this case, and are not going to be. I'm not going to say that they have to be prohibited, but they have to be advised. Some under control and supervision.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of apps do youngsters use mostly in your country?
The most popular apps would be gaming, would be apps for communication with their peers, and perhaps the apps for learning a skill, I mean, cooking, and also especially apps for traveling around the country and visiting different cities and tourist destinations.
And how do you think health or fitness related apps benefit people?
Health apps, yeah, in terms of diet, perhaps they can recommend good recipes or useful ingredients for people. And in terms of exercise, there are many apps that explain how to work at home. These workout apps can be made without any coach, and can be done without any coach. So they are absolutely useful in terms of health, and especially physical fitness, as well as mental health.
Mm-hmm. And should children be encouraged to study through educational apps on phone?
Yes, they do so without any recommendation. It is widespread usage of apps. But yes, they should be encouraged, because the role of teacher would be to conduct them to the right path, and not to mislead them, because there are many conflicting and confusing materials out there. And the role of teacher, the role of parents would be to select items to feed the children and pupils, perhaps. I mean, to distinguish between useful apps and misleading and useless apps, perhaps.
And how do you think this is possible?
Because, as I mentioned before, there are many materials out there, and children have to choose one of two of them, and they follow their peers, they follow the culture of the school, so the role of teacher would be to recommend useful, and maybe they have to make some new materials for their children and students.
Have you come across such an experience in your family?
I have an old mother, and perhaps not, but I have some teachers, and they tell me the differences between useful materials and those materials which are rubbish, perhaps. And they are scattered all over the platforms on the internet.
All right. Well, this is the end of the speaking test. Now, please let me review your performance. Give me 2-minute time, and you can now relax and take a deep breath.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you. You smiled at me, and you helped me to keep calm and honest stress. Thank you.
I'm happy to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Silver and VIP. This package is comprised of the offline educational videos for the 4 skills, including listening, reading, writing, and speaking. In these videos, you will learn all the necessary techniques that you will need to apply for the IELTS exam. Apart from the educational videos, you will have full access to enormous resources to practice the strategies that you learn. Once you finish your course, you will have 2 and 4 online mock tests of speaking, along with comprehensive feedback under the same conditions in Silver and VIP courses, respectively. Also, you can send us your writings to be checked out and receive comprehensive feedback on those. You will also have 60 3-level British-based podcasts produced by the Academy, not only to help you improve your listening, but also to enhance your vocabulary range and pronunciation. In addition to all the mentioned resources, you will be provided with useful grammar and collocation files to get your target score with a better level of knowledge. Join us and become our next successful candidate.
All right, let's see how you did. So, of course, we review your performance based on 4 criteria: fluency and coherence, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and pronunciation. So we check your performance based on these 4 criteria. First of all, let's go to fluency and coherence. Well, in this part, you did a very good job. You were able to maintain the flow of speech. you're able to give long answers, but you had a couple of pauses and hesitations. You were searching for words sometimes. It's okay to have pauses when you search for content, search for your next idea, what to say and how you're going to say it. It's okay, but sometimes it's obvious that you were searching for words like the use of the word rubbish instead of unuseful. So I think that has to do with your stress. You were a little bit stressed out, and that is why you could not find the word easily. And that is okay. You can work on this, reduce your stress, and be open and relaxed while showing up for the exam, and that will solve the problem. So, and you need to also, you used very good connectives and fillers and boosters. You were using these course markers before you begin answering the question. It's okay, but you need to diversify those discourse markers, and you need to find better words for connecting each sentence to the other sentence. That makes you seem more capable of answering the questions. Mm-hmm. So please bear in mind these tips. I gave you a 6 for fluency, but you're definitely potentially 7. You can be 7 if you just care for those tips that I gave you right now. Let's move on to vocabulary. You got another 6 for vocabulary because you were not paraphrasing. You really used very good range of words. You said astonishing, and you also used busy as a bee, and that's okay. But when you use this idiomatic language, it was as if you were, and you have memorized those phrases and those words. Sometimes you were trying to use some words which were out of context just to show off and flaunt your capability in language, and that, of course, is caught and can be caught by the examiner. So try not to use memorized combination of words, but try to use idiomatic language in a natural way when it is necessary to use those words and those idiomatic phrases. Use them. And you used a very good range of collocations. It's really okay and perfect, but you need to paraphrase. And you did paraphrase once when I asked you, people spend too much time on these apps. You said they're involved. This is a good way of paraphrasing. Try to use more such instances of paraphrasing the question. Well, this is very important to raise your band score. So you're 6 in vocabulary. When it comes to grammar, you were really okay and perfect in using a range of grammatical structures when it comes to simple structures. But when you go on and try to use, you have the ability to use complex structures, but you didn't use them today. Try to use more such complex structures like conditional sentences or relative clauses, subordinate clauses. Try to use them more. This is very important to increase your band score and make it at least 7. I know that you have the potential and the capacity to use them, and you know them. You have a full control over those complex structures, but today you forgot to use them. So try to bear these tips in mind as well. And when it comes to pronunciation, you were really perfect. But you mispronounced single and certain sounds. Pay attention and be careful with the last D. You said attend. You said attend instead of attend. Try to pay more attention to how you pronounce the word. In some other cases, some other instances, you also mispronounced the sound D. You said it T. I know you know, but you sometimes, because of the stress, you may forget. You have a very good performance, but today you were not, I think, prepared when it comes to your nervousness. Because of your nervousness, and you're a little bit stressed out, you could not show your full potential. You could not show yourself and your capability in English. So try to work on the tips that I provided today, and try to use each word in its own place. When it is not necessary to use an idiom or use a collocation, avoid using it. Try to stick to those simple sentences. If you come up with a complex sentence or more compound sentence, try to use them, and you'll be easily 7. You'll be easily 7, like a piece of cake, if you pay attention to those steps. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you for feedback. I'm very grateful, and thank you very much. That's all.
And how did you assess yourself today? Do you think that you could show your full potential today?
I presume myself not quite prepared for this mock test, and perhaps I'm in the learning process, and I have to come up with advantages of perhaps more classes, more practicing courses, but that was good for me. I mean, for the first time I attended an exam, and it's just useful because as we attend more exams or take more exams, less stress will be in the future, perhaps.
All right. Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Professor, and have a nice day.
You too.